Well, I asked my mom, Lois Lundemo, what were some of the events in her life that were most impactful. And so Mom's thought about it, and she's got at least one story to tell.
Hi. Well, the most eventful thing that I did was to marry John Lundemo. And I had a happy childhood, and I just befriended him, and he befriended me. We went to school, grade school and high school together a little bit. I mean, he was 2 years older than I was. And I went to nurses training, and he went to the service in the Army Air Force for 3.5 years. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I was kind of young and foolish, naive and stuff, but he always treated me well, and whatever I wanted, he just went along with me and was okay with it. Like I was involved in the community at Elk River, and when we were 6 months married, I was pregnant, and the priest announced that I was the president of the Christian Mothers for the next year. Well, that wasn't very nice of the priest to pick somebody so young, but I did it. We met every other week, and I had my baby, Luke, and we could buy a car then, and I was head of the March of Dimes. When the March of Dimes, I think it was probably the first time they had the March of Dimes, I don't know. But anyway, I organized Elk River for the March of Dimes and got block workers and stuff like that. And of course, the head of Christian Mothers, we had a lot of activities, suppers we had, and the bazaar, an annual bazaar, and it was just all good. Now what?
Well, this was like the very early 1950s.
Yeah.
And was it kind of unusual for women to be this active outside the family?
Yeah, it was a little bit, but there were other gals that my age that were in Christian Mothers, for instance. And then the next year, I think I was president of the community club, which is the older women in Elk River, and more elite group, I guess you might say. And we were working to put a swimming pool in Elk River, but it never worked. We met with the Chamber of Commerce, but it didn't work either. But anyway, and I worked part-time, a couple hours a day, for the county nurse. And I didn't tell my mother that I was working, because women really weren't supposed to work out of the home, although there were a lot of women in Elk River who worked at the arms plant in Anoka, and they said that bought them plenty of lingerie and, little extra things. So there was that, and there were a lot of women who didn't go to work, of course. And then I asked John if I could start a scrapbook for building a house someday. Oh, sure. So then I wrote for all kinds of stuff about building and plans, and we started collecting ideas and stuff. And we were married in 48, but by 51, I think, 52, we bought land for our new house and started digging, and hired somebody to do part of it, and we did part of it, and we lived in the basement, and quite a few people built a basement house first. And then we had a 5-year plan for building up. My husband said the Russians have a 5-year plan, we'll have a 5-year plan, and then build up. So we did that. Well, by the time 5 years went by, we enjoyed living in our new house, and I went to work at Anoka State Hospital part-time. And then, for 10 years I worked at Anoka State Hospital, part-time, half-time, and had 2 more babies, Rose and Mary, and I don't know. But then I decided, well, I'm not going to have any more children, so I'm going to. The doctor says, how many have you got? I said, 3. Well, he said, are you crazy or something? 3's enough. Dr. Summers. But anyway, I thought, well, if I'm just going to have 3 kids, I've got to get a better job. So I looked up in a library at Anoka State Hospital, and I found that public health was a place to be. And in the meantime, our county had a bunch of retired nurses or non-working nurses. We formed a group. Some worked and some didn't, but we had a county nurses group, and we helped the public health nurse do vision and hearing screening in school and stuff like that, because there was no school nurse, so we just did it voluntarily. It was kind of a funny thing. And then I went to the University of Minnesota for 3 years to get a bachelor's degree in public health school nursing. And I enjoyed my time at the U, and we got along pretty good, although my sister had a setback, a mental problem, and I had 2 of her little kids for 6 months after I went to the university, and it was tough, but we did it. We rounded up 2 cribs, and my dad and mother paid for the food, and we took care of them, and John was right in there, washed clothes and did what he could. He worked shift work, and we managed. And after I became a school nurse, well then I had I went to the superintendent and said, well, now I'm a public health school nurse, would you hire me? And he said, sure, you're half-time, you work in the morning and you're on call in the afternoon. So I was on a teacher's salary and a school nurse half-time for maybe 2 years, and then I was full-time. And that was okay. And we had a big school system. We had Rogers, Elk River, Zimmerman, and of course we had St. John's Lutheran at now then, or out toward now then, and St. Andrews, and Evangelical had a private school across the street from the senior high, and went to all those schools. Dayton. So, you see, that took us. But before we went to, well, what am I all doing? Am I supposed to tell my whole life story?
No, you're doing fine.
Before I went to, started school nursing in 1961, I graduated from the University of Minnesota, and we went on a trip to California. John had saved up his vacation time. You could do that then. You can't do it anymore, but he could do it. He saved up vacation time, and so we had 6.5 weeks off.
Wow.
And we bought tents and tried it out at Spicer on Green Lake for a weekend to see how it worked. And we went to California. We saw many of the national parks, and we had a great time with the 3 kids and us. And John's sister lived in San Diego, so we visited her. And we went to Los Angeles and visited Grandma Lundemo's brother, John. And we visited John's birth father, Frank, in Prescott, Arizona. And it was a very good time. And there's much more to be said about that, but that would take an hour.
So we can stop for now.